What's going on YouTube? It's TH back again with another video, and today we're talking about my favorite fit for all 32 NFL draft classes. I've kind of combed through each and every draft class, and I put together a list of my favorite fit for each and every team from their respective draft class. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Be sure to hit that like button if you do, and subscribe if you're new to the channel and want to see more football content. And let me hear your thoughts for the best fits of the 2023 NFL draft. Doesn't have to be your favorite team, but if it is your favorite team, be sure to let me know who your favorite squad is and who you think the best fit of your draft class was. Love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section, and I read every comment and respond to about 90% of them. So you're not wasting your time. Let's have a little bit of a fun conversation down below. All right, some of these names are going to be the same from the value side of it, like O'Cyrus Torrence to start us off here with the Bills, but for the most part, these are new names, but there are some double ups here. But O'Cyrus Torrence, I mean, they needed a guard. Wouldn't have been surprised if they took him in the first round. But ultimately, they get him at pick 59, so it's great value. And I think a guy who can be a plug-and-play upgrade over Ryan Bates. I think he's got more movement skills than people want to give him credit for. So therefore, I don't think he's going to be, a sore thumb sticking out. And, worst comes to worst, I know he's a better mover than Roger Saffold was last year. So if you're willing to take a shot on Saffold and see how he fit in the mix, it's worth seeing how O'Cyrus Torrence fits in. But I think he helps that run game, but also showcase that he can handle his own in a jump-in competition in pass pro, which this team's going to pass the ball a lot, or so we assume. Maybe they'll change their ideology a little bit this year, but either way you spin, I think Torrence gives them a big boost in that department across the O-line. Dolphins, Devon Achane. I mean, Cam Smith makes a lot of sense here because more ball skills in that Vic Fangio defense. I'm totally here for it. But the Dolphins, that offense is all about speed, baby, and Devon Achane, the fastest 40 time of any running back. I mean, this one was single-handedly willed by the draft community. It felt like every draft pundit was saying, man, if Devon Achane can go to the Dolphins, that offense is going to get that much more #fun to watch. And now we've got it. So Devon Achane to the Dolphins, that's an easy one. Patriots, I'll go Christian Gonzalez here. I think the Patriots defense is at its absolute best when they have that shutdown guy, that Stephon Gilmore, that Darrelle Revis, that J.C. Jackson going back, that Ty Law type. And I think Christian Gonzalez has that type of potential. And where he's not maybe as refined as Devin Witherspoon, he's got all the traits that you want to make a lockdown, shutdown CB1. And now you put him in the hands of Bill Belichick? All right, yeah, I got to see what this turns into. But I think it's a great landing spot for him and a huge addition to that secondary, which may take that defense to another level. Jets, Joe Tippmann. I thought about is he Abanikanda because, man, him in that zone blocking scheme, there could be some huge breakaway runs for Abanikanda this year. But I'll go Tippmann, one, because long-term starter, could also fill in at guard, which was important for me here, where, if you have to move AVT to spot starts at tackle, who's filling in for him at guard, I think Tippmann could do that. So kind of fills two positions at once, future center, but also, plug in guard if need be. And I think good value there for the Jets as well. So they drafted an immediate potential starter, depending on what happens and how the tackle situation plays out, but also got their future starter who's a great scheme fit for them. All right, next division, AFC South, Texans, CJ Stroud. And you're going to see a whole lot more first-round picks in this video versus the best value, just because the natural, the first-rounders, I think they all kind of went about where they should. There's a few other guys I think they got great value, like Christian Gonzalez. But for the most part, now we're talking fits. And CJ Stroud, I mean, now I'm hearing a bunch of people say, man, that Kyle Shanahan, Bobby Slowick offense, assuming it is Shanahan-like, that's a great fit for him. He's a great processor, very accurate. And I'm like, you guys been the last month. That's the same stuff I've been saying. And I'm not a huge CJ Stroud person. He's my QB3, kind of 2A. I mean, 2B to Will Levis is 2A. But nevertheless, I am not as big a CJ Stroud person as other people are, but now I feel like people are saying, man, that's the offense for him to go to. And it's like, well, you got there. That's all that matters. But I do think this is the perfect offense for him where, my concerns for CJ Stroud was he's coming from one of the best rosters in college football and one of the best systems in college football. He's stepping into one of the best systems and one of the systems that's going to inflate numbers naturally. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo's put up gaudy numbers while being, kind of mediocre to average. We've also seen this offense, boost up people like Nick Mullins and Josh Johnson. Like we've seen it work its magic with a lot of different guys. So CJ Stroud, I think, is stepping into one of the best schemes he could possibly have. He's super accurate, very good processor. So I think he'll get the ball out quick and be able to get it to where it needs to go. And at worst, be Jimmy Garoppolo-esque with more mobility. And then hopefully they get some more talent around him, and that kind of alleviates my other concern. But love the fit for Stroud in Houston. And if there was a place for him to go that kind of, again, alleviates some of my issues with Stroud, a Shanahan disciple scheme is one of them, and that's exactly what Houston has with Bobby Slowick coming over as the OC. Colts, Josh Downs. I think he could be a plug-and-play starter in the slot. I think he might just be better than Isaiah McKenzie. And plus, McKenzie's battled so many injuries that he is far from a sure thing as a starter in the slot. And I think Josh Downs, how he fell to the third round is baffling to me, especially behind a guy like, I like Jaden Reed, but if the Packers are drafting a slot, I don't know how you look at Josh Downs and say, no, it's better. At that point in the draft, that's a little head scratching for me. But, I think Josh Downs' yak ability, sneaky good contested catcher, good speed, can work, the underneath stuff, but also you can push him down the field, working some crossing routes and just have him run away from defenders. 38-inch vertical, he can go up and get it a little bit. I'm a big Josh Downs guy, wide receiver 6 for me. And I think, again, might just be an upgrade over Isaiah McKenzie. And his yak ability in specific gives them a skill set they don't really have with Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce already there. So it just rounds out that wide receiver room a ton. Jags, Antonio Johnson. Yeah, I've talked about this in literally every video this week. The good thing tomorrow is my power rankings video. I can't talk about Antonio Johnson then. Maybe I might slip it in. Antonio Johnson might just be my running bit here on the channel. But whether it's an upgrade at the nickel or at strong safety, he is an upgrade there. And he's a potential starter right away, but also a potential long-term replacement of either Trey Herndon or Rayshon Jenkins. So, love that fit. And, I would have been over the moon with the Jags taking Brian Branch in the first round. And instead they wait till the 5th and get my safety 2, who was just kind of like Brian Branch to me, a little bit bigger, but just like a half step down in every category measurable. So on-field measurable, that is, not athletic measurable. Neither one of them were great athletes there. But, yeah, I just think the Jags, instead of taking Branch at 24, said, we'll wait till the 5th round to get the next best thing. And that was Antonio Johnson. Peter Skoronski to the Titans. Yeah, he feels like a Mike Vrabel guy. Vrabel just feels like the dude who's like, I don't care about measurables. I want results. I don't care how you get it, as long as you get it. And that's Peter Skoronski. I could see him starting at left tackle. We'll see what they do with Andre Dillard or Nicholas Petit-Frere. No guarantee that he's the starting right tackle either. But I could just see Vrabel being like, I want the best pass protector out there. I don't care if he has T-Rex arms. Get Skoronski out there. And maybe that's just because, I'm thinking about the year the Titans were the 1 seed and they had 80-something people on their active roster throughout the year. And it's like, how the hell did Vrabel do that? But nevertheless, I do think Skoronski's a really good fit. I think, to me, he's the best offensive lineman blocking on the move. So for that wide zone blocking scheme, they run that, stretch right, stretch left with Derrick Henry a ton. And Peter Skoronski leading the way is really appealing. So whether it's tackle or guard, that's the other component of this, is that offensive line flexibility really flushes out that O-line, because I can see him playing guard and then Brunskill playing center. I could easily see that. And then it's okay, I have no concerns about that O-line. Or I could see them bringing back Ben Jones, and Skoronski ends up playing starting guard and Radon's out of the picture. Or he plays right tackle and Petit-Frere goes to the bench. A lot of flexibility here with Skoronski, which I also think is something that Vrabel has come to covet, considering the amount of injuries Tennessee has had to battle through. All right, on to the AFC West. I got to keep Drew Sanders here. He's a Vance Joseph type of linebacker. Great blitzer up the middle, and I do hope they keep him at ID or off-ball linebacker and let him blitz up the middle versus moving him to edge like they did with Baron Browning. And I hope they, in turn, keep Baron Browning at edge, where I want to see more of what that's about, because started out hot, but then kind of simmered down before the injury. But yeah, Sanders is a Vance Joseph blitzer up the middle, and then hopefully they figure out what they can do with him in coverage and as a run defender and help him grow in those areas to make him a full package linebacker and a steal in the 3rd round. Chiefs, Felix and Udike Ozama. Got to keep this one the same because I didn't really love the Chiefs draft. Fit-wise, you can convince me Rashee Rice is the receiver they don't have. But at that point, give me Cedric Tillman, and he'd probably be my selection here. Because Rice wants to play Tillman's game while doing it 3 inches shorter and 15 less pounds. And it's it could still work, don't get me wrong, but if you're going to box out a defender, I'll take the 6'3", 215 guy versus the 6', 200 guy who wants to play like the 6'3", 215 dude. Anyways, Felix and Udike Ozama was the edge rusher they don't have. Karlaftis is not a bendy dude. Amenahue is not a bendy guy. Felix Udike Ozama is as bendy as it gets in this class. Love his lean. Good first step as well. Don't think he's terrible against the run, but you have Karlaftis and Amenahue there to play the early down stuff. So Felix Udike Ozama at least has this different type of body and this different type of edge skill set who maybe only plays on 3rd downs. I think it's totally fine for one of the best teams in football, maybe the best team in football. And they're going to be leading a lot of games. That 3rd down DPR specialist is a big role in their defense. Chargers, Quentin Johnston. How many off seasons now we've been saying the Chargers need a speed wide receiver? That's what Quentin Johnston brings to the table. So this was a no-brainer for me. I think he plays faster than the pro day numbers. Also, you have to take into account 6'3" guys don't naturally run as fast as 5'9" guys. So that's a part of the mix here. But I also just think he is just a different skill set than Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And the other benefit here is he's wide receiver 3 at best. Like, he is not going to be leading the way in target share or anything like that. So they can just solely use him as a deep threat / yak weapon, which are both skill sets they were looking to add. So Quentin Johnston, the fit's naturally there. Raiders, Michael Mayer. This feels like a very New England-esque type of move. Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels were like, hey, man, can we go get a Gronk type? And they were like, hey, well, Michael Mayer kind of looks like him, and he's white, so there's that. But work the middle of the field, solid route running that can get better at the next level, good blocking too. I mean, this just checks a lot of different boxes for Josh McDaniels and how he wants to run that offense. So they had to move up to get him, but top of the second round, solid value, but long-term started there at tight end. I know they brought in Austin Hooper and O.J. Howard, but Michael Mayer was the one tight end I said I feel really confident that he is not going to be slow to start and have like a bad first year. So honestly, he may supersede those guys relatively quick in his career. On to the AFC North, Andrew Voorhees. I mean, this is a future starter in the 7th round. Kai Blue Kelly is a good fit. I like Trenton Simpson as well. Zay Flowers, if it wasn't Andrew Voorhees, it was going to be Zay Flowers as that slot wide receiver with Bateman and OBJ. I love the idea of that. And plus, he's like injury insurance for either one of those two guys who are both coming off an injury. So I love all that. So Zay Flowers, honorable mention here. But Andrew Voorhees is a perfect scheme fit, and he's going to be your starting left guard by at least year 2, maybe even end of year 1. I really think it's going to happen, and he's going to help make life post Kevin Zeitler that much easier to handle for that Ravens offensive line, which is a huge part of their identity. Bengals had to keep DJ Turner here too because you look at Michigan and he is almost snap to snap, mixing it up between man and zone. I mean, Michigan really asked him to do a lot of different things, and he was up for the challenge. And Lou Anarumo is going to ask him to do the exact same stuff. And plus, they covet high-end athletes, 4'2", 6'40", 6'2", 8'3" cone. DJ Turner is the exact type of corner the Bengals wanted, and they got him at pick 60. Browns, Luke Whippler, another one I've talked about ad nauseum this week. But this is your future starter. Perfect fit for that zone blocking scheme. And now center is not going to be an issue. It was something they addressed kind of late in free agency last offseason, and that was a little surprising to me. But ultimately, they got their guy in Postage, and now they got his replacement in Whippler. I guess to even stay in state, which makes the fit that much better. Steelers, I'll go Keanu Benton. I'm a little, Joey Porter Jr. is a very different type of corner than Pat Peterson is at this point in his career. And I like what Broderick Jones' potential is, but I've also been noted talking about how much I think he is raw as a pass protector. So he does feel like the fit that Steelers like the most, but I don't know if I'm as in love with it. But Keanu Benton is an interior sneaky upside as a pass rusher, which Cam Hayward's only getting older. Larry Ogunjobi is old in himself and, also battled a lot of injuries. So they needed another guy who could contribute to the pass rusher on the inside. But also the Steelers defense, here comes a duh statement. This is applicable to every team. But they go from a good defense to a great defense when they're really good against the run. And Keanu Benton, I think, brings that. He'll eat up space, he'll eat up blocks, and be able to hold the line of scrimmage up the middle and give this team that nose tackle they haven't had since Tyson Alualu first got to Pittsburgh. All right, on to the NFC East. And Mazi Smith. I did put him in the value video because I was like, 26 was probably the early side of where I thought he could go. But when it comes to fits, yeah, I like it. I mean, kind of like the Steelers, where it's like the Cowboys are a much better team when they stop the run. And this is one spot they have been looking to get better at. Find that D tackle that can help plug the run up the middle. Mazi Smith's going to do that. That's the one thing that I could count on week in and week out at Michigan. The pass rush was something that kind of came and went. But Dan Quinn's going to utilize a lot of stunts and twists. So to draft the guy who's number 1 on Bruce Feldman's freak list, and you see it on tape, like his movement skills are crazy for someone who's 6'3", 340. So for him and this defensive line that's going to have a ton of movement and guys flying across the face of a guard and a center, that feels like a spot where you can let Mazi Smith figure out what he needs to do as a pass rusher while engineering pressure for him and getting that production out of him while he learns to grow and become more consistent as a pass rusher himself. So I think this gives Dallas an upgrade in run defense while also putting him in a scheme where you're going to get pass rush production and tap into his athleticism at a really high rate. So I love the fit. The value is just about right, in my opinion. Giants, Deontay Banks. And man, I could have gone with John Michael Schmitz filling that center role, the last center spot they needed to fill. Jalen Hyatt was in the value video, so you could have made an argument here. But I'll go Deontay Banks. This might have been my favorite pick of the first round. I mean, the perfect addition to that Wink Martindale defense. Joey Porter Jr. would have been great too, but something about Deontay Banks, man, I just love the idea of him partnered up with Adoree Jackson. Mid 4.3 speed. He's got the 6 foot, 200-pound frame you want, the long arms, sticky in coverage, always at the catch point. Now just got to clean up the ball skills, and I think the Giants got themselves a damn good one. And Banks and a potential CB1 of the future, but at the worst, him and Jackson will be able to let Wink Martindale run the defense that he likes to run. Eagles, Jalen Carter. I mean, come on, don't overthink this one. Don't overthink. I mean, they got some good ads. Like I think Sidney Brown can be an upgrade over Terrell Edmonds. I think Tyler Steen can be a plug-and-play starter at right guard. I like Nolan Smith, but they already kind of got that guy on Hassan Reddick. But maybe he's a future, long-term Hassan Reddick, sure. But it's Jalen Carter. This is the Javon Hargrave replacement. Long-term, he'll replace Fletcher Cox as well, and he's an upgrade over Milton Williams, and you pair him up with Jordan Davis, and you reunite the two interior guys from the best defense in college football history in 2021, Georgia Bulldogs defense. Yeah, this is an easy one here for the Eagles. But they had a lot of fits that I like. Moro Jomo, honorable mention, I guess, but he'll have a harder time working in the rotation compared to Carter. Commanders, I'll go Emmanuel Forbes. Now, I've been noted this was one of my least favorite picks of the first round, maybe my least favorite pick of the first round. Not because Forbes is a bad player. And if, Washington moved from 16 to 29, let's say the Saints made a huge trade up like they normally do, and then they draft Forbes at 29, it's like, okay, well, they drafted him after Gonzalez off the board, after Banks was off the board, and maybe you can convince me Forbes is a better scheme fit than Joey Porter Jr. Sure. Okay, fine. But they drafted him at 16 ahead of Gonzalez and ahead of Banks, who I think would have been as good, if not better, scheme fits. So I'm kind of left, with not a whole lot of great options. Ricky Stromberg maybe is a long-term Chase Rollier replacement. Braden Daniels could be a starter sooner rather than later at left guard, maybe. But I do think Forbes, with his movement skills and his feel for zone coverage, makes a lot of sense as a fit in that cover 3 heavy defense. I'm just concerned that he jumps a lot of routes and play calls are just more nuanced at the NFL level. And it's not going to be as predictable. And 166 pounds is 0 percentile. We just have not seen a guy like this at the NFL level. So I am very curious to see how this plays out. I understand Washington's thinking, but I just don't know how you could love Forbes and then look at Christian Gonzalez and be like, oh, well, he can't do the same stuff. Or look at Deontay Banks and be like, well, he can't do the same stuff. I just don't know how you can look at Forbes and say that. Anyways, get back to more positive notes here. The Falcons, Bijan Robinson. I might not have loved the value of where they got him, and I may have thought there were other picks that could address bigger holes in their roster. But look, Bijan Robinson, I'll go ahead and say it. He's going to be RB1 in fantasy next year. Like, he will finish the year as the top scoring fantasy running back, depending on your scoring in your leagues. But he'll have the receiving value. The 2 years that Arthur Smith had Derrick Henry, he had more than 300 carries. And yes, I know Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson are there, but Bijan's going to get close to 300 carries, if not surpass that mark. So with that, plus the receiving volume, he'll have fresh tires, right? Like we're talking about a young player, first year in the league, as fresh as he's going to get, who can win with speed, power, has great contact balance, has got the elusiveness. Bijan's the best running back prospect, in my opinion, since Adrian Peterson. And now you're putting him into an offense that wants to win through the ground game, is trying to make the life of Desmond Ridder that much easier, and he's going to have all the volume in the world that he could want. Yeah, Bijan Robinson, this is the right fit for the Falcons. Do I think they could have gone elsewhere? Yes, but is the fit impeccable? Absolutely. Panthers, Bryce Young, easy one. Needed a future franchise quarterback. You trade from 9 to 1. You take the best quarterback in the class, and that was Bryce Young. I also would love to see Frank Reich only had Andrew Luck for 1 year. And I want to see what Frank Reich looks like as a coach when he has that guy who can be a potential top 8 guy. Now, I don't know if Bryce Young's ceiling is quite as high as Andrew Luck, who, is, determined to be the next Peyton Manning type, I don't know if Young is that as a prospect. You make him 6'2", 220, and people are probably calling him that. But I still want to see what Frank Reich can do with a quarterback as good as Bryce Young, I think, will be. Durability issues are there, but other than the fact that he's going to play at 180, 185, and maybe that makes you worry about what happens when he takes a hit, there is nothing else in his game that should give you pause for concern. So, yeah, love this for the Panthers. And now this team can start making a move to being playoff competitive and move on from the Band-Aid fixes of Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold and things like that. Saints, Isaiah Foskey, my past few videos talking about this pick, I have said that he feels like Marcus Davenport, or if you took away the athleticism and put in better pass rush mindset and a more complete move set, that's kind of feels like what this is. But at the same time, I looked at their mock draftables, and they're basically identical in every athletic measurement. So I think the way that I can kind of like quantify what I was saying, and I think maybe the reason I can rationalize it is like the athleticism for Davenport popped more at UTSA in that level of competition versus Foskey at Notre Dame. And maybe that's why I felt like I saw it more with Davenport versus Foskey. But that being said, I do think Foskey is a more developed pass rusher from the standpoint of like having multiple moves he can win with and putting together a pass rush plan against a tackle. I don't know if Davenport was really that guy right away. So yeah, love this fit. This makes a ton of sense as a Davenport replacement, and to get him at 40, I think that's good value. And also on top of being that third pass rusher the Saints covet, I mean, clock's ticking on Cam Jordan. I mean, I could totally see Foskey being the Jordan replacement as a future starter. In the Bucs, I'll go Kalijah Kancey. You know, a lot of excitement about maybe him going to Philadelphia. Jordan Davis is going to keep him clean. He'll eat the blocks. Vita Vea and Greg Gaines are going to do the same thing for Kalijah Kancey. So he's going to have opportunities in one-on-one spots, and he'll get the chance to kind of reinvigorate that Bucs pass rush back to where it was when they won a Super Bowl in 2019, 2020, whatever year it was, a couple years back, when that pass rush was at its best. I think Kancey's going to be a big spark as to why that comes back. And they got two guys to help keep him clean in the run game, which I think is needed considering 281 pounds, third percentile arm length. Run game might not be his calling card, but as a pass rusher, love that fit next to those other two guys. And of course, it's just an area I think Tampa Bay could get better at. So I love that they took the shot on Kancey at 19. All right, NFC West, Garrett Williams. I mean, a guy who has all the traits and has ball skills that say this guy should be playing man coverage while playing a ton of zone at Syracuse. And Jonathan Gannon's going to play quarters, and he's going to play cover one man. Insert Garrett Williams as a perfect scheme fit. I mean, I really do think he is a perfect corner for that defense. And I was saying a lot of the same stuff about him maybe going to the Rams. You know, I could see him as a third-round fit for Los Angeles. So instead he goes to Arizona at pick 72. I think that's good value. And right now, who's that starting outside corner? You know, who's that guy? I think Garrett Williams has the potential to be that CB1. Rams, Steve Avila. So it's funny. Best value, I gave the Rams a TCU player and Trey Tomlinson, and now best fit, I'm giving him another one, and Steve Avila. So lots of love for the Horned Frogs, I guess, in Los Angeles. But for a team that wants to win through the air, they get the best pass-protecting interior offensive lineman in the class who can both play guard and center, which Brian Allen right now on the roster is a center, but who knows long-term how that position shakes out. So he, I think right now, profiles to be their starting left guard, but maybe in 2 years' time he becomes their starting center. I wouldn't rule that out. But that type of pass production or pass protection and that offense that wants to win in the air, the fit's naturally there. Then Jair Brown. Now, I was not very crazy about San Francisco's draft class. They had the lowest draft grade that I gave out for the entire class. But Jair Brown definitely could be Jimmy Ward. Like, he could definitely be that nickel corner strong safety type, ball hawk, 10 picks for the last 2 years, gotten better as a tackler. I do worry about his routes that he sometimes takes, but a lot of that's when he's coming from up top, crashing downhill. When he's inside the box, he's fine. Like, I really don't see him having a hard time making an impact in the run game when he's already playing down in the box. And the routes just seem a lot better. Which, I mean, naturally, coming from over the top, like, taking the right route and angle to a ball carrier is a lot harder than it sounds. But I think Jair Brown, I mean, this could be a plug-and-play upgrade. I don't want to say upgrade, but plug-and-play replacement for Jimmy Ward. And I could see where that's the role where he becomes the best version of himself and exceeds expectations that maybe I have set for him currently. Seahawks, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Like, this is the slot wide receiver that I said time and time again. Man, if I could give JSN and the Seahawks, I want to. So I did in a couple of mock drafts. But honestly, I thought he'd be off the board by 20. So the fact that he made it there, this is awesome. I mean, this gives you a 1-2 punch of the future with DK Metcalf, JSN as your top two target share guys. But in the immediate future, he's your third guy behind Lockett and Metcalf, and just gives you a different skill set to win with. Where like Metcalf, it's that slant and the over the top ability. For Lockett, it's insane ball tracking, big playability, and he can do some other stuff, but then he goes down pretty much before contact comes. So not much in the way of a yak guy. I think JSN can give you a little bit more yak stuff while giving you an awesome over the field intermediate weapon who separates in the snap of a finger. Super explosive out of his break. 6'5", 7'3" cone. Totally see that on tape when we got to see him play. Now we just need that hamstring injury not to kind of linger back into picture and take away that special route running ability that Jackson Smith-Njigba has, but helps them right now. And a team that already made the playoffs last year, right? Like, I could have gone Devin Witherspoon because, they drafted the two high floor guys at the top of their respective positions, corner, wide receiver. And because that, a playoff team, I think, only got that much better. But I decided to go JSN here because I think there's even more long-term benefit from a Jackson Smith-Njigba. Not that Witherspoon doesn't, but I think JSN, future wide receiver 2, that goes a long way to keeping Seattle relevant. All right, on to the NFC North, the last division we have to talk about. Bears, Darnell Wright. I thought about Zach Pickens here as the best fit because I just love his explosiveness. That first step off the line of scrimmage is really impressive, and he could be that disruptive pass rush 3 tech that could be that DeForest Buckner type from Matty Eberflus in his defense. But I'll go Darnell Wright, plug-and-play starter at right tackle. Love the anchor, underrated movement skill, so I think he fits into that zone blocking scheme really well and allows you to keep everything else kind of status quo versus like drafting Paris Johnson Jr., making him flip, or drafting Peter Skoronski and hoping that the arm length is an issue at right tackle, or drafting one of these guys and forcing Braxton Jones to move over to right tackle. You keep Jones where he is, you're moving Jenkins to the guard spot, Whitehair over to center, where Jenkins played guard last year, Whitehair has played center in his career. Like, you're not really changing a whole lot of that offensive line, which I think goes a long way of building upon the continuity that unit built up at the end of last season. Lions, Jack Campbell. Now, whatever you think about Jack Campbell as, the value pick at 18, he's the one linebacker in this year's class that was 6'5", 250, kind of had that prototypical size, underrated athlete, love the 3-cone testing. To me, I totally see that on film. And he is the upgraded linebacker that Detroit was looking for. They brought back Alec Anzalone, but Jack Campbell just feels like that better. Alex Anzalone, but just like upgraded across the board. And then this frees up Malcolm Rodriguez, who's a little bit small, a little bit lighter, to focus on being a coverage specialist. And then you also have Derek Barnes from Purdue, drafted a couple years ago, who he's a blitzing specialist. Now you got 3 different linebackers. Barnes is the blitzing specialist. Rodriguez is the coverage specialist. Campbell is your prototypical old school rundowns guy, but also has enough athleticism to stick on third downs if you want to leave him out there. So love what this pick does to that linebacker room. And honestly, I can see where Alex Anzalone maybe is someone they trade at the deadline just because maybe there's an injury for a contender at linebacker and they feel like Anzalone can be a plug-and-play guy, something like that. And then it's assets coming back into Detroit. I could totally see that playing out at the deadline. Packers, Lucas Van Ness. I was surprised that Packers fans didn't like this. I mean, I understand JSN, Dalton Kincaid, that would have been awesome, but Brian Gutekunst just wasn't going to do that. Like, have you seen his draft classes? They don't feature wide receivers in the first round, so it just wasn't going to happen, or tight ends for that matter. Lucas Van Ness is very Green Bay Packer to me. Inside-out flexibility. I think they're going to play him at edge. I think they're going to play him at edge and then move Carl Brooks and Colby Woolen on the inside, and there's going to be some DN snaps for them moving forward. And then Van Ness is going to be your Preston Smith replacement. So it's going to be a little different seeing him move from the inside at Iowa to the outside, but I think with that, you're going to see more bend than what we have on film because I think he's got more athleticism than people want to give him credit for, but great at turning speed to power, and you pair that up with Rashawn Gary. Tackles that struggle with power are going to have a hard time keeping up with the Green Bay Packers. So, and maybe once you get into third and long passing situations, maybe he does become a guy that on base sets he plays on the outside, passing situations he plays on the inside. I'm not ruling that out. I just think that long term they have the image of him playing edge, and I would love to see him be that Preston Smith replacement, free up some money long term in Green Bay. And then the Vikings, Jordan Addison. Look, I love Dwayne McBride, but Jordan Addison was the fit that they needed. And I was really glad to see them kind of take Addison to cap off that 4 straight wide receiver run that we saw late first round. And I mean, this almost just kind of feels like resetting Adam Thielen. Kind of like we talked about earlier on. Sometimes it just feels like you need to reset, get younger, cheaper the position, and maybe it's just the same stuff. I talked about it with Hendon Hooker in a past video, talking about the Lions and where they're heading in the future. Addison kind of feels like a reset of Adam Thielen. Now you got someone who can reliably get open as a separator. And I also think about the Sean McVay and his disciples, and I'm like, man, let's think about McVay and the wide receivers he's had success with. Allen Robinson didn't work last year, and he's kind of this ISO contested catch 50-50 guy. But man, Robert Woods looked great, and he wins with route running. Cooper Kupp's a stud. He wins with route running. Brandon Cooks can do a lot of things, including win with speed, but also an underrated route runner. Even Van Jefferson, who's kind of poor man's Brandon Cooks, is a pretty decent route runner. So the trend I'm kind of picking up on here is like, Sean McVay is going to draw it up right. And as long as you're a competent route runner and can get open on your own, the throw will be open. And then someone's going to be schemed up because of how you're manipulating that defense and forcing defenders into bad spots. So I think Addison is much more the type of wide receiver that the Vikings would want over someone maybe like a Quentin Johnston, who we're a little bit TBD on his route running right now. But yeah, I think Addison, his reliable route running is exactly what they're looking for. And on top of where I think that fits in with McVay and his disciples, it's just what you need when you have Justin Jefferson getting the entire city of New York over top of him in that playoff game. Like, there was nowhere else for Kirk Cousins to go with the ball on that 4th and 8 other than hope TJ Hawkinson breaks a tackle, and he did not. So they need someone else who can get reliably open and take some pressure off the shoulders of Justin Jefferson, and I think Jordan Addison can have that impact right away. I'm a little A little concerned that he's the one wide receiver that went in the first round that feels like he has to be wide receiver 2. Flowers, if the other guys are healthy in Baltimore, he's wide receiver 3. Johnston, he's wide receiver 3. Jackson Smith-Njigba, right away, he's wide receiver 3. Adams has to be wide receiver 2, and that's a little bit more of a daunting task, but I think I trust his route running enough to be, kind of Stephon Diggs light too. There's also another fun connection there. Different front office than who drafted Diggs though in Minnesota, but I think it'll play and be a much needed addition to that offense, moving on from Thielen and trying to take some pressure off the shoulder of Justin Jefferson. But that is going to do it for my favorite draft fit for all 32 NFL teams in their draft classes. Let me hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Where was I right? Where was I wrong? And this is super subjective, so be polite and then let me know where you think maybe your favorite team, there's a different fit that you like more. There's a fit that you like more for the Lions or the Chargers or the Ravens or whatever. Let me hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Best fit for all 32 teams and their draft class. But hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button. It helps me and the channel out a ton. And then if you're new around here, want to see more football content in your life, hit that big red subscribe button. That is going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teej, and I am signing off.